Thank you, Jason.
I don't care about the ponderous evidence. That is true.
Fair.
Yeah. Well, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I guess it's about time to get started. Hi, I'm Lee Neely. This panel is on the 5 things we wish users would stop doing. We have assembled an awesome group here of some of the finest female IT professionals I know, or pretend to know. And I was going to let them introduce themselves, but the concept here is we all have situations that users do unusual things that we wish they wouldn't, that are counterproductive to business or themselves. And I was talking to my wife, Chelle, about this idea. And from a male perspective, I'm like, okay, let's fix the problem and then maybe go to public shaming. And she's like, no, education's a better move. So what we want to do is talk about the 5 things that users do that we wish they wouldn't, a little bit about why we believe they do them and what we can do to help them choose better. But before we start, I want to pass the mic and let the panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Lesley Carhart, otherwise known as Pancakes. Hello. And I have been doing IT for a little over 20 years. I've been doing security for about 12 years. My focus is industrial control system, cybersecurity, shameless plug. I'm speaking on that at 6, but this is going to be more fun.
I'm Chelle Clements. This is my baby. I had gone to a series of ISSA meetings, and there seemed to be a theme that everybody kept going, I had these users that did this. I want to shoot them. I had users that did that. I want to shoot them. And when he was going, gee, what do I want to do this year? I go, education. So that's how this came about. I also have been in IT for over 20 years. I went from blowing shit up, which was a heck of a lot more fun in some ways, to going back to school and getting a degree in computer science and working on cybersecurity.
I'm going to stand up since the table's really short. Hey, I'm April Wright. I do right now. I do like application security and education of people, and just in general, from developers to users to parents to kids to whoever can possibly learn about how to use technology more securely. With Jason Street and I run a class that is about building a security awareness program. It's called Achieving Security Awareness Through Social Engineering Attacks, where we demonstrate how to use like some Hack5 tools and OSINT and some other things to demonstrate vulnerability to people so that they actually understand the risk rather than having it be a theoretical thing. So, yeah, here you go.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda Berlin, also known as Info Sister. I pause for clap. I am a senior security architect at Blue Mirror out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. CEO of Mental Health Hackers. Woo! Podcaster on BreakSec. Woo! What else? Panelist member, jack of all trades, and I've been doing this for, I don't know, too long. Author of Defensive Security Handbook. Sorry.
Yeah.
Talking stick.
The talking stick, yes. This is the talking stick that is not phallic. And just for the round it out, I'm Lee Neely. I'm in cybersecurity over at Lawrence Livermore Lab, been over there for 30 years. I also have joined the Security Weekly podcast team, just got elected to the ISSA International Board of Directors, SANS Newsbite editor, little things. Anyway, so why don't we kick it off with what we think our number one issue is. And, actually, before I go there, how many of you guys know about the XKCD password that they just were hacked? 560,000 records. Do you know what the number 1 password that was in the dump was? Do you know what number 2 was? Correct battery horse staple. And with that, who would like to kick it off?
Okay, so my so my number one thing that I think that users should stop doing, that I don't know what's going on, that the users should stop doing is oversharing on social media. I am so passionate about this. Like, people will just talk about anything. They post pictures of their kids, of their public profile pictures, even though their profiles are locked down. They share their home phone numbers and addresses. They share pictures of their kids doing at school. Like, these are really scary things that people shouldn't be doing. Okay, sorry. These are really scary things that people shouldn't be doing, but they don't really understand the threats or why they shouldn't be doing it. But oversharing on social media just becomes this huge problem for the company, because if you can get to the user or their phone or their personal computer, or figuring out more about them, then you can spearfish them. You can maybe get into a phone and then get into a network when it's plugged in. So there's a lot of different reasons why that's a problem, not just for the company but for the users themselves.
My top and my number 3 keep bouncing back and forth depending on what's going on. Users opening mail from parties unknown and weak passwords. How many of you saw the last Spider-Man movie? What was Happy Hogan's password on his cell phone? Password. No, I did too. And it's something that keeps coming up. And it was also 20 years ago when I started in this field, a lot of what I was working with was passwords. And there were certain programs that you can force on people to choose a more difficult password. I don't know, the one that I had that was screw my ex #1 or something like that, I thought was pretty good, but seriously, it was, and the word was not screw, but trying to help people. I was really happy several months ago when it came out that little sayings were actually really helpful for people to remember. Because I don't know about you guys, but right now, based on what some of the companies where my credit cards are, my checking accounts are, some of the other things that I belong to, I've got a really long spreadsheet on my machine that has all these different passwords, because what works perfectly well one area, there's different requirements, and it's really hard to keep all of them in track. Your turn?
Sure. If Amanda doesn't want to, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to turn that on its head a little bit. So my number 1, my top 1 is not speaking up when there's a problem. And there's a number of reasons why I say that. As the first one is you see the phishing email, or the obvious thing, you clicked on something and you don't tell your security team because you're embarrassed or something. But the other take on that is not telling us security people when we're doing something wrong, because we have all these these tropes that we keep telling people over and over again, like use a strong password, use a password manager and stuff. And sometimes those are really tricky things to do. Like, have you ever tried to convert all of your passwords saved in a bunch of browsers and stuff, or somebody else's, to a password manager? That's not an intuitive process. That's really, really hard to do. So I would like to see more end users telling their security people to go F themselves. But saying it, just telling us what's wrong, telling us, I can't use a password manager because here's the problem.
Explain it.
Yeah, definitely give us some explanation.
You want to fight?
No.
You're fine. So I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I don't actually deal with users anymore. Oh, wait, that's not a disadvantage. That's not. So I'm gonna use my user base as an example because I do MSSP stuff. So I think my users are sysadmins and net admins and security admins at corporations, right? And I think their biggest mistake, and I hope this doesn't like off-rail anybody else's like things, but is not understanding a SIM isn't a magic solution that you can just install. And you can send logs at, and boom, it's gonna be done. You have active security alerting. You're gonna catch all of the threats and all of the red team activity, and it's just, in there in a couple days and you're done. No, it's like a process, right? An ongoing process that you have to keep revisiting. As if you have an MSSP or if you do it internally, that's going to be someone's full-time job. That is not something that you can just like, oh, I'm going to install an antivirus and we're done. No, it's something that you need to treat as less of a project and more of just an ongoing thing.
Well, actually, what I was going to ask for our panelists is, now that you've named your number one, what can we do to help users do the right thing and make the right choices? I mean, I love the idea of speak up when we cyber people are being unreasonable. Although we get a pretty good feedback loop at the lab. They are not shy. It is often called the smartest square mile on the planet, and they know it. And they don't read. They'll read the first sentence of an email. And that's only my users, right? Read the first sentence and a half of the email and ignore the rest. We give them cookies. Gotcha. So yeah. And whether you're directly dealing with users or your users are the CEO who believe in the magic unicorn solution with rainbows coming out of where. So I'll pass the mic back down. Like I said, I'd like to see your ideas on how we can move the bar, how we can do stuff.
Okay, so I had another one actually on here that's kind of falls directly into that. So forgetting that they can contribute to security. So as a solution, I think remembering that they have expertise that they can bring to the security space. And I'm in industrial control systems now, and I'm dealing with a lot of eclectic legacy systems, from the 70s and 80s. And the people who know those systems the best are the guys who have been there for 30 years or the girls who have been there for 30 years. And they know those industrial systems, those infrastructure systems amazingly well. They might not know everything about security, but they could be very interested in it. And I'd like, as a solution to those problems, to have users remember that they can contribute to security. And there are elements of knowledge that they bring to the table that we don't have.
When I noticed some of these things happening when I was working on this special information project, the boss originally had been the one who was trying to train people in what they needed to do. Here's step 1, step 2, step 3. And I saw people that were just glazing over in his classes. And I came out of one of them and told him flat out, I go, I'm taking over training. And I'm going to be working one-on-one with people. We went from 65 to over 650 when I had left the program. And those were people that were using the system at least weekly. And they knew what to do because I would sit down with them and go, this is what I need. And let's work here. And if I saw their eyes starting to glaze over, it's like, okay, let's use another word. Because I was working with PhD physicists, chem engineers, mechanical engineers, chemists, computer security people, scientists of all kind. And I learned you have to also sometimes have a unique language for each of them. How you explain things to a physicist is not how you're going to explain it to a chemist. And by working one-on-one, the problems that we had with security, with what was happening with the passwords, what was happening with sign-ons, this is on the classified side, of course, really dropped down during my tenure there because I knew what they were doing.
So I'm going to keep standing and making it awkward for everybody else at the panel. Okay, so sorry. Oversharing on social media. the reason people use social media is to share things. It's very counterintuitive. But I think that one of the things that we can do as a company is to actually has a couple of advantages. So by training our employees about how to protect their families and how to protect themselves outside of work, they will take those principles. We show them about oversharing. We show them about how OSINT works and how spear phishing works, and how to look at their kids' phones and look for apps that hide their Finsta accounts or whatever, like their fake Instagram accounts. They have one that their parents see and one that everybody else sees. How to look for those apps that say calculator, but they're really like Instagram. How to configure their wireless routers. How to set up guest networks. How to set up a VPN on their phone. Like, by teaching them how to protect themselves, it makes it relevant to them. And then they retain that information better. They will become advocates for other people, like their friends and family, which is, good for society. But they will also take that information and bring it back to the company, and they will still have that knowledge that they learned from about how to protect themselves, and hopefully apply it back to the company. So, they're always going to share stuff, but we can show them how to lock down their privacy settings. We can show them things that are relevant to them, and tell them why, and talk to them about the threats and what can happen as a result. Then make it personal, because if we're not making security personal to them, they're not going to care, because they do not care about your data. They care about their data.
Yay. I'm going to lay down instead of stand up. So going back to the Magic Sim problem, I say work closer with your security vendors and all your other vendors, right? They're usually there to help you accomplish some stuff, and you are paying them. Keep them accountable, actually work through, the implementation, and don't just stop there, make sure they're continuously working on it and not just installing it and forgetting it as well. Do number 2? Yeah. So we don't have to, I don't know, I like passing the mic all the way down. No, it's okay. I'll do number 2. Trying to think in order, because I just randomly wrote these down. I'd say installing like next gen firewalls without actually configuring anything is number 2. So yeah, they have a firewall on their perimeter, and whatever threat list stuff they have on there. They're just allowing everything, so it doesn't really matter anyways. And they put all those any rules, and all their outbound traffic is allowed, and I see it all the time. Also, kind of like the second step down from that would be just denying things when your SOC or your MSSP tell you, hey, this is a bad IP address that you're contacting, and then they'll just block that IP address from being accessed. So lack of configuration on that really expensive equipment that they put in. And, it's not like they need to be pros, you don't have to be a network engineer. I mean, you should to put it in, I guess. But if you, if that's not your full-time gig, and you have somebody else doing that for you, making sure there's audits and everything in place as well.
Okay. So I think that my number 2 is over-trusting the technology that's designed to protect them. So we put things in place. We put blacklists in place. We put block lists in place. We put all of these things. We put subject lines that say external. We teach them. We do all of these other things. But a lot of people are feeling like they're more protected than they really are. If we teach them about the failings of what the technology is that is designed to protect them, and we say, okay, it does say external, but if somebody's account was compromised, it still could be coming from internal. So you still have to be aware, even though that header is there that shows you that the email is external. So I think that just that problem is, I think I just gave the solution to. But I think just like the blinky boxes are great and everything, but it's really education that is going to help solve the problems of the users. It's not putting in a bunch of things to protect them, like putting them in a rubber room. It's teaching them that things are sharp and things are hot and that they shouldn't touch them.
So I'm going to go back to basics a little bit here. How many of you still have users that are opening email from people that they don't know? And how many of them continue to click on a link within that email? And they're doing it, and it's, what can we do? There is a friend of mine I was bouncing this presentation off of, and he said the company that he has worked for the last maybe 10 years has the entire company go through training like every 3 months. And he goes, I've been going in, hit, read, question, just going through it. He goes, it's just now, after several years, that some of this stuff is really starting to sink in. And this is a guy that's been doing this quarterly. At least it's sinking in. Come on. Right. And it's finding where's a better training program. And that's something like, okay, I was doing one-on-one, which was really helpful. I worked at Lawrence Livermore. Trying to do one-on-one with 6,000 people is just a hair daunting for doing it. And if they click on that phishing link, if the company is sending out as part of their training program and it's, you just wound up in, phishing prison for this. Okay, how much is that teaching them? But it is helping. I don't think it's as bad as it was 10, 15 years ago, but the cybersecurity expert at the end of the table might know better. So, your turn.
All right. So I think my second one would be people not demanding privacy and security from various vendors that affect their lives, especially in their personal lives. We're in the land of smart everything. We're in the land of cloud connected everything, social media, everything. We're putting our data everywhere. And it's everything from how long did I sleep last night to like very personal stuff about your kids, your health. Every aspect of your life is monitored from the moment you're born now. It's all posted to the internet. It's all tracked by credit agencies and health companies and all these smart vendors. And nobody's demanding security in these devices. They're demanding cheap. They're demanding quick and available. They are not demanding secure and private. And nobody's reading those long privacy policies. And some of that's our fault for not making sure that those privacy policies are legible to users. That needs to be legislated. That needs to be something that's established across the board in our countries. But that needs to come from consumers. That type of legislative change, we can only do so much as security professionals. I'd like to see consumers out there saying, I want my data to have some semblance of privacy. I want to have the ability to say no, like we saw in the EU, some attempts at least to let people say, no, I don't want my data to shared. So I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see people care a little bit more about that instead of getting the cheapest smart coffee maker they can.
That actually was reminding me that I don't think the average consumer is asking, should we? It's shiny, it's new, it's cool. Sign me up. I'll take 2. I'll take 1,000. The interesting thing about the social media posting that comes up is I was flashing back. How many of you have had friends who basically almost posted from the hospital the full name, date, and time of birth of the newborn? Do you think that might be useful later? And do you think it disappears once it's posted? I don't think the average person really think. We cybersecurity professionals, we get it. I don't know how to have the users get that. Pretty much once it's online, you can find it. I mean, teaching about OSINT is one way, but I don't know how many eye glazes you get on Joe Average. I don't know what we can do, but I'd love to see us do more. But anyway, so we ready for our next one?
Okay. I guess we're going the other direction now. Sorry. So, I want to follow up on something that Amanda brought up earlier, and I think we've all kind of got this on our list, which is the take on the expecting perfect security from devices and security products that I think we probably all have something to that effect on our lists. So I'll just elaborate on that a little bit more. It's not even just buying the magic black next generation box that is supposed to do security for us. It's expecting any product out there to just do perfect security and not understanding that everybody will ultimately be vulnerable to phishing and to a breach. And it's just, you can reduce the risk. There's defense in depth. You increase the deterrence in your network to try to keep more and more adversaries out. But there was an instructor in college who told me a wonderful parable that's really stuck with me, and a lot of colleges has gone away. But so this telecom guy said, so if you have a house, you put a door on the house, right? And that keeps the neighborhood kids from just walking in and out of your house, right? They see the door is closed, they don't walk in. And then you put a deadbolt on that door. And the deadbolt, that deters the casual thief from just trying your door and seeing if they can walk in and steal your TV. And then you maybe put an alarm system, you put ADT out there or something, and that deters the more dedicated people who are ready to throw a brick through your window. But if somebody is paying $10,000 to hire a hitman to kill you, guess what that guy is doing? That hitman is coming in and killing you. You're going to die. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. And security is like that. It's like we build layers of defense in depth, and we deter and we deter and we deter, but people have to understand that you have to plan for that worst case scenario.
Yes. You know what he gave me for my birthday? A really nice Kimber Micro 9 concealed carry. And I'll show you what I can do with it. Well, no, it's back at the house. Come on out. Come on out. Yeah, kind of going along with that is you have users that are going places they shouldn't go. And sometimes it's unintentional. Years ago, there's a place out in Manteca. Anybody from California? You've heard of Manteca RV sales or whatever the hell. People at lunchtime would go out there to see about renting an RV. And then it turned out on the back end, everything that they were putting in there was being sent to Russia. Seriously. It was, and the lab thought they had everything dialed down really tight. And it was.
You should have heard the complaining when we blocked that site. Just an RV site.
Yeah, but there's sites that are even worse. We have personally a friend that never found a site he didn't want to go to. And there was about a year there that every 3 months, this guy's computer was being brought over to our house. And can you please clean this up just one more time because of what was happening? And I can't tell you how many hours I spent working with this guy going, you can't do this. And oh no, he was a professional at Johnson & Johnson and he knew everything. So that was pretty not great.
Okay. So, what are we, three? Okay. Three, four. Okay. All right. Number 3, I think that people are not willing to put themselves in uncomfortable situations, and they're not willing to deviate from cultural norms. So the idea that it's rude to not hold the door for somebody is a reason that piggybacking occurs. Without feeling empowered to, you can hold the door for someone and teach them you can hold the door, but then ask to see their badge. Or watch to make sure that they go over to security as a guest or something like that. So being polite without compromising security. I think that if you're not willing to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, if you're not willing to ask for help, if you're not willing to go to security and say, I don't know what to do about this situation. I got this email. Should I open it? Or there's a person downstairs and I saw them come in and they didn't use a badge. What should I do? getting over that ego, and I mean, this is a very hard thing to fix, but it's a culture thing, it's an education thing, it's a training thing, where you have to make sure that people understand that they have the power to make or break the security controls that you have in place. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yes, nice. I think my number 3 is not teaming up your red and blue team contractors together. Even if you have them internally, like if you have a red team, blue team internally, not doing purple teaming. So I'll see a lot of times like, so I do all blue team stuff. You know, one of our customers is like, oh, you know, we had a pen test, or we're going to have a pen test, and then never hear what the results of the report were. You know, we may get a, hey, you didn't catch this. But there's no real communication going back and forth between the two teams. I think some of it is the vendors maybe not being cool with it because they don't want to like release what their secrets are or, you know, any information about, you know, the inside of their network. I don't know. You kind of already have it, but it's a really big problem when it comes to doing defensive stuff because we can't, you know, fix what we don't know is broken. Especially when you're, you know, a contractor, MSSP or whatever, because you don't know, you know, the networks and everything that they have internally, as well as, you know, the red teamer that broke in or their internal team.
I'll let the boy talk.
For the record, Shelley's a much better shot than I am. Just and my friends have advised me never piss her off if she has a weapon. In general, it's a good. It's bet you can leave off the last part. It works. I'm reminded we have a lot of awareness training at Lawrence Livermore because we do have some secure spaces, and I know some of the people in the audience here are excellent at social engineering. They're into where they aren't supposed to be, and I have from time to time wondered how well they do out there. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a respect because there's some damn good people that do this stuff. And I'm thinking about a company that doesn't do as much awareness and have as much perimeter security. It's got to be toast for a lot of them. But, you know, well, you just educate, pick your risks, right? So those are our top 3. I think we want to go for one more. We got enough time? So I'll hand it over.
All right. So I think my last one is, so Arthur C. Clarke once said anything that's sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. But in the 21st century, that's kind of become anything that I haven't spent enough time on YouTube watching is indistinguishable from magic. And that's true for security. And I wish that people would realize that security isn't magic. It's not something that's unattainable. It's something they can learn about like anything else. Like you don't have to know everything about modern cars to be able to do some car maintenance. And you don't have to know everything about cooking to cook a decent meal. We should all have some skill sets across the board. It's just part of being a well-rounded human. And people can learn about security, and we should enable them and facilitate them to do that. And it shouldn't necessarily be like a forced, death by PowerPoint security awareness thing. Just enable people to learn about it because it's interesting, and you can encourage them to come to conferences like this and encourage them to watch talks and learn about things that interest them in security, whether that's lockpicking or, internet security. I think that everybody can learn something about security, even if they can't know everything about it. None of us know. Raise your hand if you know everything about cybersecurity. I'm not raising my hand. Okay, Amanda knows. Amanda is the one person in this room who knows everything about. Okay, there's one more. I don't care. You're not Amanda. Whatever. Anyway, the only person in this room who knows everything about cybersecurity is Amanda. And none of the rest of you do. I don't. And that's okay. We've spent like our whole careers and our whole lives studying IT and cybersecurity, and we don't know everything about it. So it's okay to not know everything about it. Just go out and learn things.
I bow to you. So I was at a conference, and there was a gentleman there that was talking about his company that I believe was based in Atlanta. And it was one of the few companies that was doing prostate cancer testing. So guys really, they wanted this company to go forward. And at some point, despite it being against company policy, his head administrator had downloaded music file sharing software onto her peer-to-peer. And a company that was, quote unquote, working with the FCC was doing scans. FTC. Okay, I can't talk either. Found a way in, and here was the company, and here it was, and they said, well, give us $40,000 and we'll clean up this mess. And the guy was pretty savvy. He went in, stripped out her machine, took care of everything. And it wound up being a really long story. Do you remember his name? We got the book somewhere at home. The FTC was behaving kind of like the IRS. Here's our rules, but we don't necessarily share them, and now you're going to get hit with big fines via this other company. But there was a company policy already in place. Do not do this. Lady had signed. Most of your companies have a computer usage policy that you have to sign off. I won't do this, I won't do that kind of thing. Yeah. Did it anyway. She thought, I'm the head admin. I can do it pretty much whatever I want. And it goes back to talking. You've got to go, hey, I have seen this. Talk to your people. Go, all right, here we go. More remedial education to try and fix this problem.
Okay, I'm going to cheat and do two because I have the talking stick. Yay. Okay. HackerCon. Okay, so the first one is not listening to the voice inside their head that says something is wrong. If you see something that's or if anybody sees something that's a little bit off, we have very finely tuned lizard brains that give us signals that say, hey, something might be wrong, and you should be scared and run away, or you're going to get eaten. So if you don't listen to that voice, if you ignore it, if you have a false sense of security, if you are just going about your day and just letting your amygdala just flatline, then you're not going to notice things, or you might notice things, but you're not going to pay attention to them. You're going to be trying to do things as quickly and as efficiently, and getting the things done. You're running around like crazy. You're trying to do everything that needs to happen, and you're not paying attention to those little voices that say like, "Hey, maybe I shouldn't transfer $100,000 via wire to this person who SMS'd me." Like, I don't know how this stuff happens. I mean, people have to think like, this is a little off, but I really want to keep my job, so I'm going to do this, because if I don't, I might get fired. So listening to that voice, and then, oh crap, I forgot the fifth one. All right, maybe I'm not going to cheat. But yeah, all right.
Do two more.
I know.
So if you actually think I know everything about InfoSec, I also have a really good talk on quasi-prime numbers that you should watch. Sorry. Yes, right. Ouch. Oh man. And my last one is my users thinking that one log type is perfect to be able to handle all of their security alerts as well. If you can't tell, this is a recurring theme. I do a lot of log stuff. We'll have customers send us their IDS, IPS alerts. You can't really correlate what's actually happening in an attack if you just get one piece of software or one log type. There's no correlation that happens across, is that user logging in in 3 different places, or are they just, coming in from one area? It really gives us a whole lot of blind spots, and it's really hard to convince them that, sending us all the logs is what we really want. With some softwares, you can do that, but it's going to end up breaking your budget. But prioritizing log types is something that I think they get wrong a lot.
I remembered what it was. Okay. Okay, so privacy should be a basic human right. Yes, thank you. But a lot of users are willing to give up their privacy and the privacy of their friends over figuring out what kind of potato they are, or which Star Trek character they are. And they will not only give up their own privacy for this, they will give up your privacy and everyone in their contact book by uploading their contact books to things, to social media sites and things like that. They'll post, as much as you try to hide your face from the internet, other people will post photos of you. And I think that users they just don't understand what privacy is. And a lot of the younger generations have grown up not without any privacy, so they don't care. And, some of us that grew up without the internet, and I know I'm dating myself here, but we know what, at least some privacy is. So I think that, users just need to understand what they're doing and how it impacts others. I mean, just in general, but in terms of privacy too. Sorry.
That's awesome. And I don't know how many social media posts I've did that I used to click on those damn surveys, and I realized that was really, really stupid. Unfortunately, there's not enough people who have realized what stupid is. I just put my photo online, they'll get it. So we got a few minutes left. We could do some more, or we could throw it open for custom. Why don't we throw it open to you guys for the question? These gals are really awesome. So I see a hand over here. Yeah. Just talk, and I'll repeat the question. Okay, that'll work.
Vendors or companies we use are doing that are not right, and we don't know how to approach them in any way, even though that our companies are the people paying them money. Yeah. But we feel like we're subservient because they're some other class. How do you bring that up or gain the confidence to say, hey, we should talk about this?
So the question basically is, we have our vendors providing products, but they are doing things that are not in our best interest, but we feel like we're the small fish in the big sea, and we just have to take what they give to us. Who would like to respond?
Oh, sorry. Okay, if you are an introvert, find an extrovert. Pair up. Become allies. Extroverts need introverts, and because introverts get the work done, and extroverts make everybody else do work, right? So find somebody who will speak up for you. Pair up. Find allies that will help you. Find a voice. Exactly. Thank you, Chelle. Yeah.
No, that's perfect.
Okay. Go, Jason.
I know. Everybody can hear me. My question is, how do you go about and explaining to people that your threat model isn't my threat model? It's I think a lot of the things in information security is oh, well, I never have to worry about this. It's I've got this. I'm hide behind 7 proxies. It's so I'm fine. It's how do you try to convince people? It's look, just because you live this way and you've got these risks and everything, that doesn't mean everybody else has these issues or doesn't have these risks. And I think y'all are the perfect people to actually explain that, your threat models might be a little bit different than mine. So it's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I would love to answer that one. So does anybody here play Dungeons and Dragons or its ilk? Okay. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, you're really good at solving this problem. I just gave a talk at another national laboratory about this topic, trying to get people to understand how to threat model. And what I did is, human brains run on narrativium. We run on narratives. And so making people think about a specific problem and comparing it to how their neighbors perceive that problem, especially with familiar devices. Like in that lecture, I did Fitbits. let's threat model out Fitbits and how your threat model will vary against your neighbors. And then I let them pick their own devices, and they could pick any smart device they wanted that's in their home. They could pick their Alexa or their smart TV. And I had them I did step by step to help them threat model. It's just like playing an RPG, what happens if this happens? What if you get divorced or you win the lottery? How does that impact your threat model then? Thinking about this one device. And just doing that thought exercise and playing that game in a safe environment is a really great way to get people interested in threat modeling and understanding how my threat model for smart locks on my apartment door are completely different than my neighbor's threat model, who doesn't care about anything except for getting his TV stolen. So, that's make it a game. Make it a story and make it a game.
Hi, thanks for doing this. This is a very powerhouse panel. So I think, so my question is a bit lengthy. So a lot of the things which you guys are talking about are essentially about tying it back to the, being human. Like, we have curiosity, we try to be helpful in general, we want to feel connected, we want to show that we are better off than someone else. Also, we do not like to be in uncomfortable situations. And we always do not listen to the inner voice and say, okay, let's just do this quickly because efficiency, or I need to watch this show on TV. So, and also at times bosses are going to boss, and, somebody would want to, I'm your boss, I want to be a domain admin because I'm your supervisor. Or right now I want to have all the IAM roles, or I want to have the global admin on Azure or equivalent. So how do you solve, and more important, how do you communicate and talk about this thing? Because this is a little bit fundamental, in my opinion. I mean, so it's more like, how do you, solve this human condition kind of question, right? People would want to overshare, people would want to feel connected, people would want to help, bosses would try to, do the boss things and all of this.
I have found that people who overshare, it eventually comes back one way or another to bite them in the ass. And no, I'm not looking at you, I'm agreeing with you. And there are times, and it's really hard, and maybe it's a little bit of this introvert extrovert thing. There are times that you have to go up to your boss and go, you're really doing a shitty job on this, and I'm going to take it over. And I did that once. Yeah, there's probably nicer words. It's the end of the day and I'm tired. Yeah. It's the human condition. You overshare, you go somewhere you shouldn't go with your computer. It's going to be costing you money. My kids swam for a long time, and their coach once said, sometimes you have to just throw them in the pool and watch what happens, and save them if you have to, but they will learn. And I'm really big on thinking that we humans can learn and that we can ultimately find the right path. And sometimes people just have to be kind of nudged a little bit on that. Time. One more question.
Thank you. This is an excellent panel. One question I have is, in your experience, one thing you have to keep in mind is that the functions or the users might not have the same threat models. They have different incentives, right? But my question to you is, to what extent have you been able to have your users support your messages of better security within your organizations? In other words, if you don't have the budget because of X, how often have you been able to get the users to go tell your boss, hey, listen, we need X?
I'm really glad I know the answer to this one because I was last. So I did a internal purple teaming phishing thing, right, with almost no budget. So we were able to get a lot of user-driven ideas around security when it came to just kind of giving them Amazon gift cards every now and then for submitting, spam spam email or phishing email or weird things. Like they would get put into a drawing, and there was more of an incentive there for the users to be able to now I care about security because there's something, gamification. There's something in it for me now. And making it a little bit more accessible and easier for them to participate in it.
If you're at an organization where you can do that, the private companies frequently have a bigger budget for that kind of bribery. Yeah. Government, those companies, it ain't happening. It ain't so then they have to try and find other ways, but they've been really slow. I know that.
I think that rather than punishing people for making mistakes, you want to hold people up as models of good behavior. You want to provide recognition as much as monetary, whether it's monetary or in the newsletter or at the next quarterly meeting or whatever. So positive reinforcement works much better than negative.
Okay, we're about out of time. I wanted to do two things really quick. First, I wanted to thank this awesome group of women who did me the courtesy of saying yes when asked. Yeah. And I want to challenge all of you to take the information you've learned here, not just from this session, and don't just take it back to your cybersecurity peers. Take it to your users. Give them